Guys, we've been at this for a while now.
Is it time?
Are you ready for rapid fire?
Let's go. Woo!
Vince with his all white, Lane Kiffin-esque look on. What will success look like for the Irish today in the Gator Bowl? Simple as that. Go.
I guess I'll keep my answer pretty simple as well. A victory. I think that's really what it boils down to at the end of the day. Of course, you want it to not be an ugly victory. You want to see guys, some guys, with guys being out, you want other guys to step up. You want to see, be confident about Buchner, considering this is his, first start in a long time. But all of those things are working towards the ultimate goal. And that's winning and coming out without any major injuries, right? Nothing crazy happening to Buchner, nothing happening just to guys who are your foundation kind of pieces along the team. I don't want any injuries, and you want to see progression and ultimately a win.
It's a tiered success for me. So number one by far is winning the game. And I frankly, I don't care how they win. Win the game, and that's a success. Now, if we go down to the next tier, it is Tyler Buchner playing well, right? Not going crazy, playing well, and not getting hurt. That's my second tier. Maybe also on my second tier is the defensive front playing well. And that includes the linebackers. Whoever the linebacking core happens to be, youth, veterans, whatever, they need to get pressure. They need to play well. So those are my two. Like, win is up here, and then Tyler Buchner and the front playing well. I have a lot of faith in the secondary. They're going to play well. Regardless of whether Brandon Joseph is out there or not, I think the secondary plays just fine. I am not worried about the secondary. I am worried about the front seven. I want them to play well. So those are my second tiers.
This is a culmination of the end of year one, the official year one for Marcus Freeman. If you want to combine the Fiesta Bowl, where is Marcus Freeman and what things look like Marcus Freeman? Where has that come in a calendar year since the Fiesta Bowl last year? Does Notre Dame go into this game looking like a well-oiled machine? Because, again, you can be without your high-end key pieces, your NFL opt-outs and the like, but do they look like a competent, well-oiled machine in this game, not making a lot of mistakes? Because, again, South Carolina is the team that is missing way more players in this game between opt-outs and transfer portal guys than Notre Dame is. But does this look like, is it next man in? Can you plug the guy in? Can you keep on playing without it looking like just a mess and a bunch of mistakes out there? That's what I want to see. And, again, like, I agree with your tiers, Vince. Can Tyler Buchner come back, be the talented quarterback that we think that he is? Can he jump in here? Now, I would imagine there's going to be at least a little bit of early rust, because
I agree.
There's a difference between getting a few weeks of practice leading up to the Gator Bowl, live reps or not taking any hits. Can he jump in and go? And I think that, again, with the much improved offensive line that he didn't have early in the season and the running backs, the biggest asset that the two biggest assets that I think the offense has right now, that line and those running backs, can this look like a machine that is not going to miss a beat? What does Marcus Freeman look like as a head coach? How much has he grown as a head coach over the course of this season? Because he has shown that he can adjust from week to week. What's that look like now, a full calendar year later in his second bowl game?
Yep, absolutely.
So South Carolina head coach Shane Beamer said at his final pre-bowl press conference Thursday that they had discussions about, would guys who entered the transfer portal, would they let them stay and play in their bowl? They ultimately decided not to. So my question to you guys is, would you have wanted Drew Pyne to stay around at Notre Dame, even though he was ultimately going to leave via the transfer portal?
Okay. First of all, it shocks me that was even a topic of conversation for South Carolina. Shocks me. You've been a head coach, Sean. I've been a head coach. I had a situation where a kid was like, I'm not really feeling it. I was like, okay, hey, love you. You're a great kid. Your gear needs to be turned in tomorrow. And I replaced him with a kid from the JV team that wanted to be there, right? That's how I would operate. If a kid comes to me, to my office and says, hey, coach, I'm planning on transferring. for whatever reason, whatever the case may be. And my situation was a totally amicable thing. It was like his second sport. He wanted to focus on his other sport. Awesome, right? For whatever reason, if you don't want to be a part of what we're doing, bye. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. There are plenty of guys that want your spot. There is no chance if Drew Pyne came to me and we had that conversation, say I'm Marcus Freeman and I'm talking to Drew Pyne and I'm being honest with him. We're bringing in a transfer quarterback. This is what we're going to do. There's going to be an open competition, etc. And he's like, nah, I don't think this is going to be for me. Hey, man, thanks for everything you did for us. Where's your swipe card for the Goog? Like, you're done. Like, you're not part of the team anymore. Thank you. Thank you. It's been great, but no, you're done. And that's how I would handle it. I would not want him around. And if a kid is going to transfer at the end of the season, and I thought that Drew Pyne was going to transfer at the end of the season, okay? But if we have that conversation and he tells me he's transferring, that's different. If he's all in and he's doing his thing and we haven't had that conversation, even though I think he might transfer at the end, you're good to be a part of everything we're doing. But as soon as you tell me that you're out, you're out. There's no halfways.
Yeah, I like a lot of what Vince said there. If you come to the coaches and say that you're going to transfer, knowing that the season isn't over yet, then I don't believe that you deserve to be on the team anymore, because you are making a point to want to be separated from everything. But like if the situation was handled like someone like Hartman who waited, obviously everyone knew that Sam Hartman was going to transfer and he's going to put his name in the transfer portal, but he waited until after their bowl game to officially announce it. So I think that's the route I would want to do as well. If you know you're going to transfer, then you have two routes. You can either tell us now and you're not going to play anymore, or you can wait, until after the bowl game is over and make your decisions after that. And then obviously it's easy to say now that, Buchner is healthy. But if Buchner wasn't healthy, I think it'd be a completely different answer too, because then what are we looking at? Letting potentially Angeli be the starter, for the bowl game. And so are you going to say no, that you wouldn't want Pyne to stick around and play out that bowl game? So there's just a lot of what ifs, but I like a lot of what Vince said. If you're going to leave and you're going to leave and you have the gumption to tell the coaches before the bowl game, then you're not going to play. But if you handle it like someone like Hartman did, where it's obvious, you're going to transfer, but you wait until the season's over, you wait to, finish out your business in the bowl game, and then you say, then obviously, I have no problem with you playing. Yeah.
You're either in or you're out.
Yep.
And I used to have a boss, who would say, if you're looking for another job someplace else, you're already gone. And,
Yep.
That's kind of what it comes down to. And it's no different here. And like, even if you use last year as an example, when you had Kyron Williams and Kyle Hamilton and those guys who decided that they were not going to play in a bowl game, they wanted to stay around and be around the team. And Marcus Freeman said, look, that's not the way it's going to be. We've got to go with the guys we've got. We're moving on. And I think that that's how he would have taken it. You don't take a guy who has announced he is entering the transfer portal and say, oh, you can be the number 2 guy or whatever. Like if Drew Pyne was giving you every indication that he was going to stick around and be around with the team, maybe after the spring he was going to make, some kind of decision, whatever. But once you've announced that you're leaving, there's no reason to be around anymore.
Yep. And I'll also say that, and this a little bit of a pushback to what Jesse was talking about, but if Tyler Buchner wasn't healthy and Drew Pyne still told me as the head coach that he was out, baby, we're running with Steve Angeli. I'm sorry. He's now my starting quarterback because he wants to be here, period. And you take your lumps as a team if that's the case. It really has nothing to do with who the other quarterback was going to be. I wouldn't beg him. I'm sorry. I'm not begging you to stick around. If you want to be a part of it, awesome. Let's go. But if you don't, we're going to go with who wants to be here.
Yep. Scale of 1 to 10. How big of a distraction do you think the Sam Hartman news this week has been to Notre Dame leading up to this bowl game?
This is a question of, to me, how good your head coach is, because if you have a good coach and you are in your bowl prep, then you're good. Your coach is not going to allow for any outside distractions, right? And so to me, I feel like Marcus Freeman is that kind of coach where he has them so focused on the bowl game and their preparation that they're kind of tune everything out. So I'm pretty, a 4 or 5, considering 10 would be, the biggest distraction in the world. I think it's pretty average. Like how people, guys have Twitter. They're not stupid. They scroll around in their off time and all that stuff. So it's definitely talked about. But to me, I don't think it's that huge of a distraction at the end of the day.
I don't think it's a distraction at all. I would put it at like a 1 because they knew that there was going to be a transfer quarterback coming in, whether it's Sam Hartman or otherwise. They knew this was coming. Like
when
this
Pyne
is not...
left, that was basically
right.
That's part of why. Yeah, that's part of why we're having the conversation about Pyne leaving to begin with.
100%. And so, Tyler Buchner knew somebody was going to be coming in, and he knew he was going to have an opportunity to play in this game and, kind of strike first, if you will, in the quarterback competition. He knows there's going to be a competition. He knows somebody's going to be in. And if Sam Hartman was the plan for the Notre Dame staff all along, do we really think that Tyler Buchner didn't know that? I mean, I'm sorry. I feel like they've been very open and transparent about this entire thing with the quarterback room. And so I don't think it's a distraction at all. They literally asked him about it in a press conference. Like, he knows what's going on. He's not an idiot. He's just going to go out and play football.
That's why the distriction question comes up.
Well, that's fair.
They asked him about it in press conference.
And I just don't think that it matters. I just don't think it matters in any way, shape, or form. There's going to be competition. Okay, starts a little early. Let's go. Let's see how you handle it. I think it's great.
Yeah, because of that, I put it at a 1 or a 2. Like, there's a reason that Notre Dame, assuming they know who is coming in, that they didn't want all this stuff leaking out before the bowl game because they wanted to contain it. And, going back to what Jesse said, Sam Hartman didn't make his announcement before the Gasparilla Bowl, before Wake Forest Bowl against Missouri last week. He put that off, and he's being respectful, we believe, in not making his announcement before Notre Dame's game. You want to keep it contained as much as possible, but because of what Vince is talking about, the fact that they were up front with these guys, right, within a week after the regular season ended, they were up front with Drew Pyne and Tyler Buchner and Steve Angeli. They told these guys, we're looking to the transfer portal. This is going to happen. So they have known that it was going to happen. You didn't have a specific name attached to it. So I don't think it's been much of a distraction because of that. And I guess we'll maybe find out today, exactly what it looks like. If it goes out there and you do see a team that's disheveled, then maybe your answer changes a little bit. But I don't think we're going to see that. And because of the fact that Marcus Freeman and Tommy Rees and the staff was so upfront with these guys, I don't think that it has probably been much of a distraction at all.
Yeah, and I want to address a couple of the comments. This one right here from Ed. It says it wouldn't have worked out for Pyne to stay for the bowl game either. He's already found a spot at Arizona State. He would have missed opportunities. That is the biggest fallacy out there when it comes to the transfer portal. The biggest fallacy. There's guys working behind the scenes for these kids. They pretty much know the big-time kids, and Drew Pyne would be considered that because he was the starting quarterback at Notre Dame. The big-time kids know where they're going when they enter the transfer portal for the most part, okay? He could have very easily had a spot all sewn up at Arizona State and still played in this game and not announced that he was entering the portal, period. You can use the Sam Hartman if you want to, depending on how things work out. If he ends up coming to Notre Dame, then the news about him coming to Notre Dame that leaked about 2 weeks ago wasn't a big surprise, right? If he ends up going someplace else, then it was just a media thing that got overblown, right? But look at Jordan Addison last year from Pitt, right? He knew where he was going before he entered the transfer portal.
Before he was ever in the transfer portal. There was all this smoke blowing around, and Pat Narduzzi calling Lincoln Riley, and all this different stuff before his name was ever in the portal.
Drew Pyne would have had every single opportunity to go wherever he needed to go and still played in this game. So anybody that thinks that's not the case, then they just don't understand how things work. And you can call it tampering. You can call it whatever you want.
Which it is.
It is, but it's everybody's doing it, okay? Right. There's no rules and there's no enforcement of said rules.
Sad but true.
Yes.
Absolutely. Guys, Notre Dame has this tradition, as we all know, of putting names on their jerseys for the bowl game. Would you rather them do the names on the jerseys or wear green for the bowl games? Which would you like to see be the tradition going forward?
I ultimately don't care about the names on the last on the back of the jersey because they do it the entire year. The only time they do it is in the bowl game, just so I think that people kind of watching outside of the regular fan base can, know who players are essentially, and it's just advertising for the bowl game, in my opinion. So I'm 100% on board with the green. I think that the bowl games should definitely bowl jerseys should have a little bit of a flair to them, kind of a little bit of a reward for the bowl game. And it's just, it's just different. If that's the route that you want to go, I think putting green into the jerseys is far more cool than having last names on the back of the jersey.
I want both. They put names on the back of the green jerseys this year, so I want both. I'm taking it all. I'm not taking either or. I'm taking them both. Put the greens on that have the names on the back, and let's go.
Yeah, I was looking at a comment. Sorry, but yeah, I could take both. If I had to choose between one, I would take the green. I love seeing them wear green more often. I think the bowl game would be the perfect opportunity to do it because then, you wear blue predominantly with the exception of the one green jersey game that they've had, and they've not done it very often. And of course, you've got the Shamrock Series game as well in this era where you have so many different schools with so many alternate uniforms and stuff like that. Green is still part of the tradition of Notre Dame. There's a lot of people outside Notre Dame who think green before they think blue and gold. They think green and gold. And I think it would look awesome. Like you remember not just the Jerome Bettis Florida Gator Sugar Bowl 92, like not just because of, the fact that they ran over Florida, and the whole quote from Lou Holtz after the game, why, who's more deserving of being in the bowl, Cheerios or no, like Cheerios belong in the bowl or whatever it was. I can't remember the exact quote off the top of my head, but my point is you remember that in part because of the fact that they have the green numbers with the white jerseys. I would much prefer to see the green than the names if I had to choose one or the other.
I love the green jerseys, man. I
do too.
People are, green jerseys, we always lose. No, they don't always lose in green jerseys. That is also a fallacy. It's a fallacy. That's not the case, man. Bring the greens. Let's go. And yes, they're wearing white. Notre Dame is the away team today. They are wearing white. And I don't know what South Carolina's wearing. They're black or they're red or because they've got all
I saw the helmet that they had. It looked like
a black helmet.
grayish helmet.
They had a grayish helmet. Ooh. So that kind of dig teams that have like multitude of uniforms. And speaking of uniforms, Washington's uniforms last night, they were great.
I missed that. I
know you were on a plane, I'm sure. They had like the mirrored helmet, and it was tight. I liked it.
All right.
I always think purple is a good look.
Mm-hmm. Yep, agreed.
Couple Tyler Buchner props for this game. Over under 16.5 pass attempts for Buchner today.
That's a big smash on the over.
Yeah, me too. I think it's a big over.
Had it too low. What if I said 19.5?
I think he gets into the 20s.
Yeah, I think low 20s is the sweet spot.
I don't think he gets over 24, 25 area. I could see 23 at like the maximum.
It's just going to be man-to-man a lot today. And if they're not throwing the ball, they're not doing what they need to be doing.
Yep.
Yeah, I think you're right. He's going to have to throw some early on to at least loosen up that South Carolina defense because the way Notre Dame runs the ball, you would expect them to load it up, make a guy who hasn't played in almost 4 months come out and have to show something with his arm. So I agree. It's going to have to be over. But again, I don't think it's going to approach like the 30 range, but I think it'll be
if it does
around low 20s.
If it's in the 30s, that's not good news for Notre Dame, I don't think.
Yeah. And then New Irish 5. How many touchdowns does Tyler Buchner run for today?
Ooh.
1.
Look at that. Identical. That's what I say too. I think he gets 1.
That's what I've got as well. Scale of 1 to 10. What chance do you give the Irish to have their first 100-yard wide receiver of the season today?
Not good. And that,
no Michael Mayer.
That's not a condemnation on Tyler Buchner. I just think he's going to be spreading the ball out a little bit more. So, yeah, I agree with Irish Blooded. I'm going to go with a 6. I think there's a possibility, but I don't think it's a strong possibility. So I will give it a 6.
Come on, Vince. It's going to be an 8. It's either going to be Merriweather or Thomas. Someone's taking over today. I saw it earlier in the chat, and it's something I mentioned a week ago or so. someone needs to have their Miles Boykin game today and be set up for next year. This is a big game for Buchner, but this is also a big game for the wide receiver room. Who wants to step up and be Buchner's number one next year? Potentially.
I know what Sean's going to say.
You know what I'm going to say.
I know exactly what you're going to say.
We all thought Lorenzo Styles was going to be the guy this year. And
he had a great Fiesta Bowl.
Yeah, it didn't pan out. So that, again, this is why I don't buy into gives you momentum into the offseason and all that kind of stuff. It puts a punctuation mark, whatever you do in the bowl game on the season that you had, but then you have turnover and then you go into the offseason. And, even something like that, it should have been such a slam dunk. Now, Lorenzo Styles ended up being the leading receiver for the season, but you definitely, based on the season that he had, you wouldn't call him an alpha dog type guy. But now, as to what we're going to see today, I think there's a greater chance that a guy like Chris Tyree has a 100-yard receiving game than maybe, Tobia Merriweather or, one of the receivers has 100-yard receiving game. So I'm putting this a bit lower. I'm putting it at a 3 today. And there was something, where was it that I saw? Like Stymie put it at a 15%. I'm only putting Stymie's 15% because he's been trying to talk basketball throughout this show. And, so I felt bad for him. That's the only time we're going to say that word in this show today.
Don't watch the 2:00 game if you want to be in a good mood going into the football game, period. Just don't do it. Just don't do it. I'm sorry.
Just make yourself a Notre Dame parlay today.
Speaking of receivers, over under 1.5 receptions for Tobia Merriweather in today's game.
Over.
Way over.
I'd put it at 4.5 and still take the over.
Way over.
The guy's got one catch all year. It's, we've got to have it relatively low, but I do think that he'll be over as well. Multiple receptions for Tobia Merriweather.
The way that Tommy Rees has been talking about Tobia Merriweather throughout the bowl prep process makes me think he's going to be an integral part in the game plan, and they're going to get him the football, and he's got such a big catch radius. He is going to be him and Colsey are going to be Tyler Buchner's best friend today. You watch.
Notre Dame is tied for number 1 in the nation with 7 block kicks this season. South Carolina tied for 3rd with 6. Will there be more combined block kicks or turnovers in today's game?
Ooh. Okay. So we really haven't talked about South Carolina's special teams, and we haven't talked about Notre Dame's special teams in this show, which are both like top notch, right? We're talking top 5 special teams programs in the country, which is awesome. I really dig this matchup because they are so good that they will also be able to defense the punt block. So I am going to say there's going to be more turnovers in this game than blocks, just because both teams are so good at special teams. They're not going to allow the other team to block a punt or a kick.
Self-scout.
Yep. Yes, absolutely.
I'm going to go with the big push of the day. I'm going to go 0, neutral, no turnovers, no block punts today.
Wow. It's going to be that clean, huh?
Clean game. We're going to see. Wow. I think if there's a turnover, we're going to see one Spencer Rattler interception. Well, yeah, one Spencer Rattler interception.
I think there's going to be more turnovers as well. These are 2 really good special teams coordinators, and I think it's good. I think blocking something today is going to be really hard to come by, even though, like Clemson is one of the top block kick teams in the nation as well, and Notre Dame had block against the Tigers in that game. But I don't think we're going to see any blocks today. No. I think it's going to be more about the turnovers in today's game.
I want to throw out one of my I concocted a last second rapid fire question based off of the chat today. Over under 13.5 combined defensive snaps for Prince Colley and Jalen Sneed today.
Ooh, combined?
Combined.
Over.
Okay.
Over.
I think
a lot
probably
of nickel and dime will help those guys out.
Yeah, because exactly. Because I think of the situational football that you could put those guys into. And I saw someone talking about, running into Sneed's dad, at the tailgate or something today. And it's, look, I respect parents. I'm a parent. Vince is a parent. Jesse is the son of a parent. But it's like that can be a fine line, like when you start listening, it's like, oh, they've got inside information and stuff like that. Look, go back to Ball State a couple years ago. Think of all those backup players' parents who thought that their kid was going to get into that game. It still comes down to, situations that give them some opportunities when you're reserved. As to Jesse's question, I think I'll take the over as well because of, again, like the nickel and dime situational packages that those guys can get into. We all want to see them. Of course, how much we do see them. Yeah, I think they'll combine for over 13.5. I think that's I think that's a good question, though.
Good job.
All right. Some super chats to get to. David, competition breeds success. I think that was back to, talking about bringing in a quarterback and all that kind of stuff. I don't think anyone here is going to disagree with that. Tyler Evans with a super chat. Favorite bowl game you've watched so far? I'll just agree with him and say Kansas, Arkansas. That turned out to be one of the most exciting, even if, it wasn't exciting for a good chunk of the game when you end up with a triple overtime game that ends the way it does. So I agree. I'll go with Kansas, Arkansas, even though it didn't end the way I would have liked.
What do you got,
Kansas, Arkansas tied with North Carolina, Oregon. I thought that North Carolina, Oregon game was great. I thought that it sucks that it kind of came down to that, penalty in the end zone working against North Carolina. But all I know is I made big stacks on North Carolina being 13.5-point underdogs in that game. I thought that was completely ridiculous. I smashed them to cover that. And I even teased a little money line in there as well. But, they snuck it out. Not snuck it out. Oregon snuck it out. But North Carolina made that game essentially what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be a really good game, good quarterbacks, good offenses. I actually thought the points were going to be up a little bit more, but they weren't. So, yeah, I really liked that North Carolina-Oregon game as well.
I've got to go with the only game I watched from start to finish up to this point, and that's North Carolina-Oregon. And it turned out to be a really good game. I mean, I wanted to see what Drake May would be able to do against Oregon, and he did not disappoint. And Bo Nix disappointed early and pulled it out in the end. So, I mean, it was a really, really good game. I really enjoyed watching that game, and I'll be watching more games starting today moving forward. But up to this
weekend,
point, the game
tomorrow's going to be a veg day. Yeah.
Vince is too good for those lower level bowl games.
Yeah, they don't do anything for me. I'm sorry, they don't.
By the way,
I don't pity 6-6 team.
Yeah.
By the way, earlier this week we were talking about that Carter Carls, our old friend Carter Carls, formerly of the South Bend Tribune, who works for the Tallahassee. I can't remember the name of the newspaper, but the Tallahassee newspaper down there. He was covering the Cheez-It Bowl. Remember, we were talking about Carter's tweet about his discovery that one Cheez-It is called a Cheez-It, but multiple Cheez-Its are not called Cheez-Its. They are called Cheez-It crackers. That is according to Cheez-It, that is the plural of the Cheez-It crackers. Cheez-It crackers. Carter, for his tweet that went viral and started this whole conversation, was given a Cheez-It letter jacket.
What?
By the Cheez-It. It's a very sharp-looking jacket, and he posted a picture of it on Twitter.
Are you serious?
So, yeah. So Carter made out like a bandit in that whole Cheez-It conversation.
Just by starting that conversation.
Vince, you're a fan of free things. Just start talking about some things.
No kidding. I'm going to have to start making a list. I'm a huge fan of free stuff. Are you kidding me? I have 5 kids. I get nothing.
I know.
Nothing for free.
Good looking jacket. Anthony, first time he ever cheered for Florida State.
And by the way, the announcers in the Cheez-It Bowl did not get that memo about what a multitude of Cheez-It crackers are called.
I believe that was Bob Wischusen and Dan Orlovsky, if I'm not mistaken.
They were talking about multiple Cheez-It crackers on many occasions, and they were called Cheez-Its. So
I still go with Cheez-Its myself. I'm not going to call them Cheez-It crackers, but Robert, we were having the special teams conversation. Robert says, how about a fake punt? Haven't seen one in forever. And this is, like being around special teams a little bit and, being around football and talking to Brian Mason as well. Like there are certain looks that you're looking for when you line up to punt or kick or whatever it happens to be. You don't just willy-nilly say, okay, now it's time, to fake a kick. There's numbers, advantages, and disadvantages you're looking for at the line of scrimmage. If you get this certain look,
right,
then okay. Now you're going to try a fake potentially, if the situation calls for it. And Brian Mason has talked about they have had a lot of fakes in this year. They just haven't got the looks that they are, were looking for in the game, so they haven't pulled the trigger on them.
So a lot of fakes are you develop in practice based off of what a team has shown you before. And so a good coach, essentially, if you're not lazy and a good special teams coordinator, you're going to be changing up your looks because guys are going to kind of develop fakes off of what you've given them. So the team's preparing for what you've already done and you come out with something new. The numbers don't line up. It's not what you practice. And you essentially kind of just you abort any sort of fake punts in that situation.
Abort.
I agree. Some other super chats that I want to get in here before we wrap up in a few minutes. Christopher, thank you for the super chat. No major comments besides all IB Nation have a happy new year. I see Notre Dame winning 36-21 and see Notre Dame with total offense of almost 600 yards. Let the youngsters ball out. Go Tyler B. We are indeed go Irish. 600 yards.
It's a lot of yards. You meant between both teams, right? Not just one team.
I would hope so. Yikes.
Man.
It's a lot of points.
And another super, this was not a super chat from Tim, but wanted to get this in. He said, just have to say, having lived in the region all my life, being an Irish fan since I was a boy, this season has been the most enjoyable because of IB Nation, the context, commentary, etc. Thank you very much, Tim. Do appreciate it. There's a lot of locals I'm finding out, more locals than I would have realized who tune in to our shows quite a bit. So thank you for that. Spread the word.
Absolutely. Tell your friends.
Who's going to be the MVP of the Gator Bowl?
Let's do that after predictions. Let's do predictions with MVP.
Save that.
Jesse's just running the show today, baby. I love it.
I know.
I don't want
it just
that kind
chronologically
of
made sense.
You're too analytical.
That's
so
fine.
Who wants to start with their prediction for today's Gator Bowl? Number 21 Notre Dame, number 19 South Carolina. Who
I'll
wants
go
to
first. I'll take it on. I'm going to keep it short and sweet. I think the passing game there needs to be some sort of passing game today. I think Buchner needs to get at least 150 passing yards. Over 200 would be ideal, combined with at least 100 rushing yards on the ground. That's, obviously 300 to 400 total yards of offense. I think that Spencer Rattler is going to do some good things today, but I think that he will also, make some mistakes along with Buchner. I think it's a close game. So my final score is going to be 31-27 Notre Dame. And if anyone's interested on FanDuel, you can pick that exact score, place a $3 bet, and win $500. Wow. If we all win together. I mean, what's the loss of just throwing out $3, right? Like that's correct score. 31-27, 31-27. We all win. So that's my final score. And my MVP is going to be Tobia Merriweather because I think that they need a passing game today. I think a wide receiver needs to step up. It's going to be someone that we haven't seen much. So to wrap it all up, 31-27 Notre Dame. We're winning $500, and Tobias is the MVP today.
Okay,
wow, that's a lot going on there. I don't know what to dispute or argue with first. No, I'm just kidding. If both teams were at full strength, if this was like a Week 10 game or something along those lines, and Notre Dame had all their starters, South Carolina had all their starters, I think it is a close game. And I frankly think it's a bit of a toss-up as to who would win the game. But it's a bowl game, and like half of South Carolina's team is watching the game from the couch. And yes, Notre Dame is missing their arguably their two most impactful players in Isaiah Foskey and Michael Mayer. Michael Mayer, not arguable. Isaiah Foskey, arguable. But I just the disparity between the starters missing the game and for South Carolina and the starters missing the game for Notre Dame is just too much for me. I just feel like there's just too much talent for Notre Dame. I feel like watching the games that I watch for South Carolina, Notre Dame should have a distinct advantage running the football. And that's who they are. That's who they want to be. And it just plays right into their hand. Running the ball straight ahead at South Carolina is going to be something that Notre Dame is going to have success with today. Tyler Buchner is going to have a good game. He's not going to have a great game. He's going to have a good game. It's going to keep us talking over the next 8 months about who the starter should be at quarterback because of the way he plays in this game. I don't think it's going to be all that close. If I'm being honest, I think Notre Dame wins by a couple of scores. I think I've got the final score 38-24, which is a 14-point win for Notre Dame. How they get there, we'll see. There could be some defensive points. I think Spencer Rattler turns the ball over a couple of times. I don't see a path for South Carolina winning the game. The only path I see is that Spencer Rattler goes off like he did against Tennessee and has like 6 touchdowns and has an out-of-body experience. But he's missing his number one receiver. He's missing his top 2 tight ends. He's missing his number 1 running back. That's a lot to put on his shoulders. But I think he tries to put the whole team on his shoulders and screws the pooch. So
yeah, and he's going to have to. He doesn't have a good running game to begin. Oh, sorry.
I'm done.
You've already given your prediction.
38-24. Right? Let's roll.
Yeah,
MVP. Come on, MVP.
Oh, my bad. I think the MVP is going to be Audric Estime. I think he has a ton of points. I think he has 2 touchdowns and over 100 yards, and he'll get the MVP.
Yeah, I mean, not a whole lot, lot left. It's up to Notre Dame to get pressure on Spencer Rattler because again, they're missing their best offensive lineman, all these different guys. They already didn't run the ball well. It's a chance to make Spencer Rattler one-dimensional. He's been sacked 28 times this season. I think Notre Dame's secondary will cover it well. Getting pressure on Rattler is the key to this whole thing defensively. Make him make some mistakes. The other side of the ball, get Tyler Buchner into the flow of the game early on. Shake some of the rust off early. Give him some early confidence. You don't want him to have to run the ball, but as you said, whether it's zone reads or whatever you're going to do, you have to make him at least look like a viable threat to run the football. And then he has to be smart if and when he does run the football, getting down, getting out of bounds, all those different things. They have been gouged. South Carolina has. Florida and Arkansas both ran the ball for more than 200 yards against this team. So it's a team that does not run the ball well and also does not stop the run very well. I'm going to say a little bit closer. I could see it easily turning into a 2-score game like Vince is talking about, but I'm going to say Notre Dame 30, South Carolina 22. So we've got them winning. Vince has picked Audric Estime. I've been kind of going back and forth. I think it's going to be one of the running backs. I'll just go with the guy I've been thumping, Chris Tyree. I'll say Tyree ends up being the X factor, and his combination of receiving and running make Chris Tyree the MVP.
If he has a game where he has MVP numbers, Notre Dame is going to blow out South Carolina.
Yeah. Let's just quickly go through the New Year's Six Bowl, starting with the playoff games. TCU, Michigan tomorrow. Does anyone have TCU pulling off the upset against the Wolverines?
I do not.
Negative.
Yeah, I've got Michigan winning 38-24. I think the Cinderella slipper finally comes off because this Michigan defense is going to be the best that TCU has seen all season.
For me, obviously, I have Michigan winning. I have them winning by a similar margin, actually, as you, 21-34 in favor of Michigan. Was it really?
Yeah.
But here's the thing. No one will be a bigger fan of TCU during that game than me. As an analyst, I have Michigan winning the game. So go Horned Frogs. I would love to be wrong.
Jess, what's your score?
34-21.
34-21. Okay. Peach Bowl, the other semifinal, Ohio State and Georgia. Who do you guys have in this one?
Go ahead,
I got
Jeff.
the upset here. I got Ohio State. I think it's, as bad as they looked against Michigan, I think Michigan, not even bad. It was just a second half collapse at home. I give credit to Ryan Day. I just don't think that he's going to get blown out by a team again this season. So I think if they win or lose, it's a field goal game. It's going to come down to the end. I think Ohio State has more offensive firepower and talent. I just don't know if their defense can keep up. Obviously, Georgia's got a better defense, but I do like Ohio State pulling this one out. I think we're going to see the 1 seed go down. I think there's a lot of people that expect Georgia to absolutely dominate this game, and I don't really see it happening. I just think there's too many offensive weapons for Ohio State.
And one of them's on the bench because he opted out of a playoff game. So there is that. Not that the whole game is going to rest on the shoulders of a wide receiver. And Ohio State has a ton of talent, but they haven't put it together one time this year, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And that's what worries me. And they should have beaten Michigan, and they didn't. They have more talent than Michigan. I will be the first one to say that. but they blew it. I just don't think they're a very good team. And that's why Ryan Day is getting hot seat comments around him. And I don't think that this game is going to do anything to quiet the rhetoric around Ryan Day. I just don't. I think Georgia wins this game 37-24, and I don't even know if it's going to be that close.
Yeah, it's just crazy, that you get a hot seat talk when you're back in the playoff. Just you lose to your biggest rival, obviously,
twice,
2 years in a row. But yeah, exactly. It's just, to me, Michigan showed defensively what they could do. They sort of methodically pulled away from Ohio State, like you said, in the second half against the Buckeyes. Georgia is just a bigger, faster, version of what Michigan wants to do. And the fact that they averaged 207 yards rushing against a team that got run on for over 250 yards by Michigan, I just see the Bulldogs continuing their 15-game winning streak, and I've got them winning 35-27. I think Ohio State will be able to score, but I think that Georgia is ultimately going to win.
Agreed.
Sugar Bowl, Alabama and Kansas State.
Let's see. Okay, there it is. I've got I don't know if you're going to be happy about this or not, Sean, but I've got K-State winning the game 21-17. I just feel like it is still college football and motivation matters. Alabama had no desire to be in the Sugar Bowl. None. They were debasing themselves, trying to get themselves into the playoff. It didn't work. The consolation prize was the Sugar Bowl. This is not a consolation prize for K-State. They want to be here. They want to win. They want this game more than Alabama does. I think they win 21-17.
I think this game's going to be closer than expected, but I think that Alabama will have control majority of the game. I think Kansas State maybe gets a score later in the game that pulls it a little bit closer, but I'm going to say 27-24 Alabama. I think it's going to be a good game, though. A lot of what Vince said, Kansas State wants to be there. They're going to play harder, but obviously Alabama has more skill. And that's just the inevitable. So I'm going to go 27-24 Alabama.
Yeah, I mean, Saban and Alabama have been in these situations before. I mean, Vince does make good points about, do you want to be there or not? And you see that sometimes in these bowl games. And the team, like it's the reverse has happened for Kansas State in the past, where they have just missed out on being in a big bowl. And then they, kind of complained about being left out and snubbed and all this stuff. And then they go and lay a big egg in the bowl game that they were in. I remember the Alamo Bowl a few years back was an example of that. But Alabama's laid eggs before in the Sugar Bowl. And how much do you want to be there? I think that can play into it. But I just think that Alabama, this would be the biggest win in Kansas State football history if they're able to beat Alabama in this game. But I just think that there's too much talent for Alabama, and they will ultimately win 31-24. Our last game, Cotton Bowl, Tulane and USC.
I mean, look, I already picked Michigan to win, which hurt my soul. I'm going to pick USC to win this game as well. I thought I saw that Tulane was favored. Did I see that Tulane was favored? I don't know what I saw, but it surprised me how close the spread was. Let's put it that way.
It's because of Caleb Williams and the uncertainty with his hamstring and how much he's going to be able to play, how effective he can
I don't
be.
care if Lincoln Riley plays at quarterback. It doesn't matter. USC has more talent than Tulane. It's not close. This will be a blowout. USC 42, Tulane 17.
If Caleb Williams plays, I think it's definitely a blowout. If him and Addison both don't play, I think it gets a lot closer. But yeah, I'm picking USC no matter what. But I'm on a similar path, like 41-21 if Williams plays, and then I would say like 24, like 31 if he doesn't. I think that USC wins regardless, but it's a lot closer if Williams doesn't play. But I mean, that's obvious, right? Because he's the Heisman quarterback. So
exactly. And I'm right in the same ballpark as you guys. We've all got Southern Cal topping 40 points. I've got them winning 42-24. The only question to me is just what we talked about. Is Caleb Williams' hamstring, like, is it? Yeah, Jared Zeber was just asking, is Caleb hurt? He hurt his hamstring in the Pac-12 championship game, and it was fairly significant apparently. And there haven't been a whole lot of updates, in terms of what his status is for this game. Lincoln Riley, keeping it as close to the vest as possible. But I think Southern Cal is going to win 42-24. There's just too much. I think that they've just got too much for Tulane in this game.
If you're Lincoln Riley, man, just be honest. You're playing Tulane. Who cares, man? Like, just tell them who's playing, who's not.
That's right.
Come on, man.
Yep. All right. Well, enjoy the Gator Bowl. We'll find out what it looks like. There'll be a post-game show later on tonight after the game here on the Irish Breakdown channel. Jesse, drive safely, getting back from Detroit.
Yes. Should be leaving in the next 30 minutes or so, and then I'm plopping down for the rest of the day.
We've got a full slate of shows. IB Nation Sports Talk coming up next week. I won't be doing any women's basketball traveling, so we'll have full shows Monday through Thursday at the regular time, and then we'll have the rapid fire show a week from today as well. So we've got a full slate coming up next week, and we can talk about it all, whether it's Gator Bowl and comings and goings and quarterbacks and all that.
Oh, it's going to be fun, except the Sam Hartman / quarterback transfer talk to escalate to a whole nother level.
That's right. Hey, hit the like button if you would on your way out. Appreciate everybody showing up today. Thank you, Craig and Derek, saying Jesse hitting the dispensary. Man, coming at you full throttle.
Man. I don't throw shots at you, Derek. Shouldn't you be at marriage counseling or something this morning?
Yeah, no kidding. Didn't your grandma have a 99th birthday party or something like that? You could be late too. All right. Again, post-game show coming up later. Otherwise, guys, talk to you later. IB Countdown to Kickoff wrapping up right now.